Okay, this is a really great thing about having your own podcast show. You can change your schedule around. Originally, for this particular episode, I was going to do a different topic, but I bumped that to the front. That's going to be the next episode. But for some reason, I think my brother was speaking to me from the great beyond this morning because I had this strong memory of a conversation that I had with him about business. And it brought me to this kind of place of acceptance and ownership of being a solopreneur and choosing to be a solopreneur and staying a solopreneur, which I've been for almost 20 years now. This episode is about that story and sharing that part of my life with you, as well as giving you the prompt to look at what you've done in your business, the choices you've made today that have brought you to today, essentially, and being okay with that. Now, it's always great to evolve, to grow, to do new things, learn new things, innovate, all that. But being okay with where you're at right now, because it was your choice to be in this place, and you may want to argue with that, but you are where you are because you are where you are. How's that for a wisdom drop? Oh, TP, I tell you. But I think it's really cool that I shared this story with you, that it is okay to be a solopreneur, to have a one-person business, and to keep it simple, keep it small, because obviously there's ways to create scale as a one-person business. We have the luxury of the technology that's available today and what is literally around the corner from the standpoint of creating efficiencies, automation. I mean, you name it. Moore's Law is just going to be exponential when it comes to the AI and the agentic work that's happening right now and how we're all deploying AI in our businesses and our lives. And so now is never a better time to take on being a solopreneur because it does have so many positive aspects to it. Not to say that growing a big business, starting a business, going a traditional route is bad. That's not what I'm saying. But what I want to say is solopreneurship is a good path to be on for yourself. And if it fits your personality, if it fits your temperament, the way you want to do business, then it's the way to go. So I hope you enjoy my story and how I reflect on this conversation, this very brief conversation I had with my brother, because it was very special to me. My brother passed away many years ago, and I greatly miss him, but apparently he's still talking to me in my head. So I'm grateful for that. I hope you enjoy the show. Welcome to My Solopreneur Life. I'm Terry Pappy, your gracious host, and I am so glad you're here. I have a wonderful episode for you. Sit back, relax, and let's have some real talk about what it is to be a solopreneur. I had a different topic that I wanted to talk about for this particular episode, but I'm putting it off to the next one, so you can have that to anticipate. And it's kind of interesting how it came to me today. For whatever reason, I was inspired to a memory of a conversation I had with my brother, Rich. And I have 3 siblings. They're all older than me. And my brother was the oldest. Then there were my 2 sisters and then me. And there was this very big gap of years between me and my next sibling, my sister Jane, 9 years. And then the 3 of them were more bunched together, like 3 and 5 years apart. So my brother actually was 14 years older than me, almost generationally. He was older than me. And we didn't really have a lot of experience with each other because of our age difference and how he left the home and when I was really little and he went off to military school and then he was in the Navy and college and all that stuff. So he was gone for most of my childhood. And then, of course, once I was old enough and started my own life. He was raising his family. It's not that I didn't know my brother, but we just didn't have a close relationship, mainly because of our age difference. But one of the things that I always admired about him was his ability to take something on and be very successful at it. Like, he learned to be a private pilot. He flew his own plane. Obviously, he was in the military. He did his stint in the Navy. He was a college graduate and just really well accomplished. And the other thing is, most of his adult life, he had run a very successful business. In one of my early episodes where I talked about, I think it was my first episode, where I talked about my family's entrepreneurial DNA. And he worked for my dad, and then he ended up taking that portion of the business, buying it from my dad's company and starting his own. But it was the same kind of business, and that was the fastener business, where the business would distribute fasteners to original equipment manufacturers, mainly. We had other types of clients and such. So we'd buy the nuts and bolts in kegs from the actual fastener manufacturer, the people who milled the steel and made these fasteners. And then we would package the orders from the OEMs and we'd ship them out and so on. And so that was the family business. That's what my dad started. And then, of course, my brother had a similar business. And now his son, my nephew, Paul, is running that business and doing very well. And obviously, he's had to adapt the business to the change in how manufacturing has left the United States, and now it's starting to come back. So it's going to be really interesting to see how he continues to progress with the quote-unquote family business. But the conversation I remembered today, for whatever reason, I think my brother's in my head because he passed away quite a while ago. Every now and again, I hear him talking in my head, which is good because I think he had some pretty sage advice. As I got into my own business, he and I would have conversations about business and about just things in general, working with people. And there was one conversation that I remember vividly. I think I even wrote a LinkedIn post about this because of the way it just came smashing into my head. And I think it's a really good message for me to share with you as a solopreneur, because it is so important to recalibrate or course correct your mindset when it comes to being a solopreneur and being okay with that. So this episode's really all about, it's okay to be a solopreneur. You don't need to grow this big giant business, have an exit strategy, tons of employees, lots of clients, and have that constant churn of business happening. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Of course, there's nothing wrong with that. But when you start out as a solopreneur, it is incredibly powerful to understand who you are, just like I talked about understanding yourself and through assessments and just really learning who you are and what your preferences are. It's also important to be okay with the type of business that you want to build and why you want to build it and staying true to that. Now, obviously, if for whatever reason you start out as a solopreneur and you're like, I'm going to be a solopreneur, I'm going to stay a solopreneur, and that's that. And then 5-10 years into it, you're like, holy crap, there's an opportunity here where I can expand this and maybe go into a brick and mortar model or start an e-commerce or hire these contractors that I've been using as actual full-time employees because I can create more scale. That is not a bad thing to also have happen when you start out as a solopreneur. And I know many people who have actually done that and done it successfully. What I want to talk about is it's okay to stay a one-person business and to be okay with that. It's still a business. You're still providing a service, providing value, and taking money for it, creating thought leadership, creating a personal brand, and serving your clients and customers the way you want to serve them, okay? Back to the conversation. I was visiting my brother and sister-in-law, Rich and Deb, down in Goodland, Florida at their house. And I so vividly remember this. It's crazy. We were sitting in his living room. It's a beautiful day. And you could hear the pelicans flying by and the dolphins in the canal. It was just so pristine and a lot of nature and just my favorite energy juju as far as environment. And it was just really relaxing. And this was probably, I would say I was in my business for maybe 3-4 years, thereabouts. And I remember I was feeling very frustrated with, I think I might have been in a lull with clients and feeling the struggle and pinch of revenue coming into my business and just business for me to stay busy and to earn income. And I remember having this frustration and thinking, well, I'm doing something wrong. There's something about how I'm running my business that needs to change. Like maybe I need to bring in some contractors to provide a wider array of services. And I was already providing a lot of services. Maybe I need to go full legit, meaning hire employees, create an S Corp, just add this level of complexity. I didn't really know the solution because remember, I'm a creative, not an MBA. So, not that there's anything wrong with MBAs. I don't ever want anything I say on these recordings to be misinterpreted or misunderstood or taken as judgment of something I'm not or something I avoided or something I don't prefer. It's not that at all. I really want this to be my reflection of my experience. And through that, through me sharing that, I want you to be able to make good decisions for your own business and your own life. So that's really the kind of framework that I'm trying to convey here. So I'm having this conversation with him. He was being really sweet. He was asking me about my business. He says, so what are you doing? And it was one of those things where my brother and I didn't have frequent contact with one another. Like 1 or 2 times I'd get him on the phone throughout a year. It would be like, are you doing okay? And he was so much like my dad. It's crazy how similar they were. But he'd be like, you doing all right? Is everything okay? Yeah, okay, that's good. All right, here's Debbie. And he'd put Deb on the phone. So my brother was such a classic, pioneer voice with being a business leader and just like focusing on what's most important, not this superfluous chit chat. And I laugh because I'm so reliving it right now. But I appreciated that. That's who he was. And I was glad to get the moments that I did with him. And it was similar when I would go to visit because Debbie and I, his wife, had and still have a wonderful relationship. I look at her as my real sister. So anyway, we're sitting there having this conversation and I'm like, rant, I want to make more money. I don't know if I should grow my business and should I hire people? And I'm just really sounding whiny and complainy. And which is not a comfortable place for me to be because it's just an outward expression of my frustration and really insecurity that was I doing the right thing with just being a solopreneur and just having it be myself that's providing all of these services to my clients. And so I'm going on and on and on. And then I finally, it's like I had to kind of get the rant out and he was waiting. He was just kind of sitting there and I don't know if he had the TV on. He was kind of half watching, listening to me. It was just like, I can imagine him thinking, all right, I'm just going to let her, run out her hamster wheel of complaints and then I'll contribute, right? Oh, it's so funny. Oh my goodness. And so I finally took a breath and was just like, okay, I got everything out I needed to do. And it was just like a weird, long, more than enough way of asking for help. Asking for guidance, like, what should I do? And that right there speaks to, at the time, my insecurity, my self-doubt around, am I doing the right thing for myself vocationally? Is this really something that I can do for a long period of time? Can I sustain this? Can I support myself doing this work? And so all of that was kind of grinding in the background. So I finished talking and took a breath and just kind of sat there waiting for him to respond. And he kind of looked at me. And he said, if it was me, I would have no employees and I would make, around $100,000 a year and just be good with that. And I was like, oh, that's it? Like, you mean you're not going to give me the keys to the kingdom as far as here's how you build your business and here's how you ensure, constant revenue and here's how you deal with employees and here's how you set up the legal stuff. And it's like I was asking for this training from my well-experienced, very successful business owner brother who was running a multi-million-dollar business. And here I am, this lowly little one-person business, his 14 years junior solopreneur. And he came out with that elegant one sentence, okay, here's your solution. And the more I reflected on it, I was like, oh, okay. Well, it definitely shut me up because it was like, all right, well, if that's what he's got for me, then I'm good with that. So, in many ways, looking back on it, I think he really made me feel good about the choice that I'd made. He made me feel okay in choosing that type of vocation and that type of work. And it was, like I said, reflecting on it, it was the most loving thing he could have ever done for me. Because what drove that sentiment from him was his own experience of being a business owner. Now, these are my assumptions based on everything, the things that he did over the years, the things he talked about, the things that he had struggles with. There was a level of struggle that my brother always had with running a big business and dealing with the complexities of it. And it wasn't anything related to his lack of knowledge or lack of experience. It's just, it kind of came with the territory. And I think in my family, we have this strain of desire for simplicity, for freedom, for a level of elegance to things. And when you get a business where it's a bigger business than just a one-person business, it doesn't align with that at all in most cases. And many people thrive in that. Like, look at any startup. I mean, it's nothing but chaos and excitement and go, 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 right? So for my brother, he'd gotten to that point in his career where he was a little, I don't want to say run down, but maybe beat down is probably a better way to put it, by just all of that, whether it's employees, whether it's just how the business was run, dealing with suppliers, et cetera. And I think that he looked at me with almost a sense of envy at the simplicity and the control and the freedom that I had being a solopreneur, being a freelancer for all intents and purposes. I don't even think we used the word solopreneur back then. It's so common now. It's in the dictionary, believe it or not. For him to make that statement to me, it was an acknowledgement that not only was I doing something that he was envious of, but there was nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with being a one-person business owner for your entire career if that's what you want to do. And this is why I'm addressing this show to solopreneurs or wannabe solopreneurs, because in today's technology-rich environment, how easy it is to find people to help using technology and the tools that we have available to us. It's kind of a no-brainer being a solopreneur. I think that there's always been this stratus layer of one-person business owners, freelancers, subcontractors, and consultants that focus on just doing their thing in more of a service industry. But there's also, obviously, the e-commerce people who make things can be solopreneurs as well. This cottage industry of solopreneurship. I think the pandemic really kicked it into high gear, obviously, because now it's normalized to have meetings on Zoom, to work remotely and travel. And so I don't need to sell you on that because you wouldn't be here listening to this if you weren't already sold on it and got it. When I look back and reflect on that conversation, I just wanted to do one episode where I talked about it's okay to just be you in your business. It's okay to be a solopreneur. It's okay to celebrate the freedom, the simplicity, the innovation that you can constantly bring to the fore when you have your own business. And being able to serve specific needs in the marketplace or close those gaps, as I talked about in one of my prior episodes, with providing services where you're like, oh, I actually know how to fix that. I'm going to go out there and start selling to the gap. That's incredibly freeing. Now, if you worked for a big company or even a small company, would you be able to do that? No, because you're hired for a task. You're hired for a specific deliverable, a specific role. Now, that's not too different from being a solopreneur because you still have clients. And in essence, they're kind of your boss. They're kind of your employer in many ways. But you have so much more flexibility and the power is more equally balanced from the standpoint of you being the expert and the client being the one asking you for help. So it's more of a balanced empowerment for both parties versus when you're in this is, and I don't, again, if you've got a full-time job and you've done this in the past, there's nothing wrong with working for another company. Believe me, I've done it as recent as 2 years ago. So when you're looking at working inside an organization, you have a role to play. You have a task of deliverables that you get evaluated on, you get paid for, and that you're told to do. So the balance of power is a little skewed more toward the employer because you're in that environment, but you're complicit because you're agreeing to be there. So it's a different dynamic altogether. When you're a solopreneur, you have so much more freedom to innovate, to create, to just handle all that the way you want to handle it. What's interesting, and I think some solopreneurs miss the opportunity around innovation. And because you can be so close and intimate with your clients or your audience's pain, problems, struggles, you can create services and products that address those things in a completely different way. That's in line with more of your personality, more of how you want to work and who you want to work with. And having that freedom to do that, I think, is probably one of the most missed and not talked about aspects of being a solopreneur, is that innovation factor, that ability to create from nothing something that's really going to distinguish you, to make you stand out, to help you sell more, build more content around thought leadership. And it's a fascinating way to improve how you're perceived and present yourself in the marketplace. Really cool stuff. And that's why personal branding is so important for solopreneurs, because when we're looking at taking a stand for something or noticing a gap and you want to start talking about it, well, you have the stage. You can do that because it's your brand, it's your business, and it's your voice. And so putting that up in front of everybody to see through your content creation, your social media, videos you create, all that, podcast, hello, is an incredibly powerful way to really drive that home and show people that you know what you're talking about and that you understand your audience. So important, so important. Talk about stuff you know, and the rest will fall into place. The point I'm trying to make in this story about this conversation I had with my brother, where he was like, you're good. Don't do anything different. Don't hire people. Don't do what I did, because I wish my business was a lot simpler. I really think that it's important for us to stop and acknowledge where we are, that it's a choice, and that choice can constantly be evolved, modified, innovated, and you can even go off in a completely different direction. And it's really up to you. And that's the beauty of being a solopreneur, is you have the freedom and flexibility to create the business you want, work with who you want, get paid what you want. And all of that is your choice, your decision. So when things go sour, there's only one person you can blame, and that would be you. Believe me, I've had a lot of sour dips in my 20 years of being a solopreneur, but they've served me really, really well, really, really well. And that's why I just am a constant learner. Your takeaway from a prompt perspective in this episode is, what is it about the business you've created for yourself, or if you're a wannabe solopreneur, the business you're dreaming of creating for yourself, that is truly perfect, that fits your personality, fits your skills and experience, fits your passion, fires up that passion? And write it down. Like, make a list of the things that are so awesome about your business, how you're running it or how you want to run it, about your clients, about the tools you get to use. Like, right now, I'm sitting in my podcast studio that I made from a rinky-dink bedroom in my house. And I love it because I was able to choose the equipment I wanted to use. I invested in a really good microphone, good lighting. The environment is acoustically prepared for the best recording because I want you to have a good experience. But I was able to choose all those things. Well, because I was able to choose it, I'm also acknowledging the fact that I invested in myself, because I wanted to create a quality experience. But also, I so appreciate the fact that not only is this equipment available for me to use, but that I was able to purchase it, invest in it, and use it in a way that can really bring my business to the next level, to bring more value to my audience, such as yourself. And when you do this prompt, look at everything. Look at every aspect, the way you spend your day, the money you earn from clients, the equipment you get to use, the flexibility in your daily schedule. So like if you want to, go run to the store and get some groceries in the middle of the day, you can do it because you have that flexibility. So just take a moment to acknowledge where you're at, that you made the choice to be there. And if there's something that you don't like yet, if there's an aspect of your business that you want to change, you have the ability to change it. And it's funny because one of the things that I ask in my strategic product, which is my KISS marketing map, I have a pretty extensive intake that I have clients do when we do a KISS marketing map for them. And one of the questions is, what is an aspect of your business that you would like to change or eliminate? And that is such a powerful question because it tells me so much about that client and what they want to do with their business. And I always try to incorporate that desire into the work that we do together, into the recommendations that I make for implementing a different communications plan or something around their products or services. And so I think it's really important to acknowledge what you want to change as well, because that's going to be a natural byproduct of being a solopreneur and your growth over time. You're going to always see things and find opportunities to expand and do something different in your business, which is pretty cool if you ask me. So that's your prompt. Spend a moment just really being okay, making the choice to stay a solopreneur for now. You never know what the future is going to hold, but it's okay. It's not a bad thing to not have employees. It's not a bad thing to not even have subcontractors. I don't use subcontractors. I do everything myself. I don't sell it unless I can do it. And I get that has, I don't want to say limited, but it has kept my business at a certain kind of level, if you will. But it's okay because, like my brother said, I would just have no employees and make around $100,000 a year, which, given how long ago it was, that would probably be more like, 150 with inflation. But I believe that the message there was, it's okay to be okay with the choice you make in your life where you're at in this moment. It helps you get very present to how far you've come and what you have in the moment. And I think that's so important for us to do at least once a day, to really just sit down and appreciate. Thank you for creating this experience for me. And however you share your gratitude, whether it's through writing, whether it's through prayer, it doesn't matter. It's just spend that moment to acknowledge this is a beautiful spot that I'm in right now. And tomorrow's going to be better. And I'm going to do these things to really appreciate what is right here in front of me right now. So we're so trained by our culture to reach for something, buy something to feel better, go on a trip, get a better job, find a better relationship. It's always about selling us the future state, making us feel that where we're at and what we have is not adequate. It's not enough. It's a advertising tactic to get you to buy their stuff. And we're so unconsciously driven by that behavior or that messaging that we turn it in on ourselves and look at our business that way. Realize that that's like groupthink. Where you're at is perfect. What you're doing is perfect. Being a solopreneur, however you have it set up, is perfect. And just get really present to that and acknowledge how far you've come and what you've done. I hope you find that helpful. I'll see you in the next show. Well, I know you're disappointed, but that's it for this episode. Listen, the great news is there's another one coming, so stay tuned. Anyway, I just want to make sure that you do the prompt. If this episode had a prompt, and you get that homework done because you're going to be a better solopreneur. How's that for a maternal finger shaking at you? Hey, listen, thanks so much for being here, for giving me time of your day, and, for taking it on. So if you want to learn more and stay connected with me, just head on over to mysolopreneurlife.com. Thanks a bunch. See you soon. That was pretty good. I think I'll keep that one.